Hey everyone, welcome to Campfire. Over to my virtual left is Erin in the Great White North, and she's a blended learning coach and my co-host for this podcast.
Yeah, and you would be to my virtual right then, right? All of a sudden I froze up like, wait a second. And is it snowing there? I don't know.
Is it snowing? No, it's just like doom and gloom and slush outside.
Okay. All right. So in the slushy center, middle of the mitten, if you will, is my virtual co-host, Jeff, who is an instructional learning coach. If you haven't listened to our intro cast yet, we would love for you to do that. Plus, we talk about having a chubby bunny marshmallow inspired teacher challenge, and then maybe the idea that that's not such a great idea, right? So today,
but we should do it anyway. Maybe not.
I had to stop myself from saying for sure right there.
2.
So today we're excited to get going in the actual podcast flow. We're going to kind of get into our whole series. So we'll chat about something that we're digging. We'll talk to our friend Ben. He is a middle school teacher in Hazlitt. And then answer some questions about blended learning too. Woo!
Yeah.
So, what we're digging.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
This is a super cool site that I can't remember who sent it to us. I feel like did Stacy send it to us?
All good applications come from Stacy.
That's true. Are you gonna just record that in a small piece and send it to her? Just saying.
Well, she'll listen to this and then smile.
Of course she will.
And then not take credit for it, because that's how she is.
So Stacy is a blended learning coach with us, and she sent us a suggestion a little while back about a site called Wizer. So Wizer is spelled Wizer, and you can get to the site by going to wizer.me. And it's amazing. It helps you to create interactive worksheets. Here's my only glitch. I wish they didn't call them worksheets, because worksheets does not. Yeah. Woo! Let us show you something new in education. It's called a worksheet.
But at the same time, I think it's like a gateway vernacular kind of thing, right? Like,
sure.
I think that everyone has heard of
Make that 3
before, and especially for I don't know about you, Erin, but I've talked to a lot of teachers where like it matters if it says worksheet. I feel a little bit more comfortable with that. So when we're talking about tech integration and people feeling comfortable about it, maybe that's a intentional decision by Wizer. Even so, they make up for it. If you don't like the name worksheet, still awesome. Much more than a worksheet.
It's so awesome. So I showed it at a professional development I did a few weeks ago, and I showed it last. And at the end, they were like, "What? Why did you show us anything else? This does everything." So if you're not familiar with it, but you use other kind of ed tech tools, I would describe it as a combination between Google Forms, right? So using Google Forms as kind of an assessment piece, Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is kind of like the ability to embed YouTube. What other videos? A bunch of videos, yeah. Right? You can do YouTube. You can do other ones. You can stop them. You can ask questions. So that's super cool too. But it also gives you a voice recorder capability. So when you think about how you could use it in your classroom, I think the first application is just that initial, like, replace your paper worksheets, right? So if you're thinking about the SAMR model, S being substitution, it's a great way to substitute a paper worksheet, plus it auto grades it for you. So there's a lot of different types of kind of test items or worksheet items that you can put on there, but it's so fantastic to have that auto grade feature. It gives students instant feedback. Saves time for teachers. I used to like to joke that when my husband and I were dating, he would help me grade multiple choice. And then when we got married, he was like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And that like launched me into what will auto grade. So yeah, students love instant feedback. Students always want to know, like, how did I do on that? It helps teachers guide instruction. So rather than they take a test and a week later you get back to them, you know the next day or later on in that day how to change your instruction. But one of my favorite pieces is that it just gives a lot of different question types. So you could do an open response, right, where you're just asking people to respond to a question. That one you have to go back in and hand grade yourself, obviously. But you could do sorting, you can do fill in the blank, you can do matching, you can do drawings. You could have students fill in on top of an image. So if you're thinking about an example, think about a map. If you wanted students to identify different bodies of water or the Great Lakes, you could do it on a map. Or if you thought about a science class, so looking at different parts of a cell and labeling those, you could do that. But you can also just include pictures, video links, and just text. But I think on top of this, one of my favorite pieces is that it gives you the ability to record your voice. So when you're giving students questions, you could read through what is the question or what are their options. So when you think about having to have some accommodations for different students, that could be super helpful. But it allows students to voice record their responses too.
That's a real cool part. And in the feedback portion, I really like how you can see their sheet, or you can just have at a glance view of what's been turned into you. It even shows, I don't know if you've seen this before, Aaron, but I did a session where I had a bunch of teachers in there working, and you can actually see a notification next to their names if they're in there working on it. Because they authenticate through their Google accounts and everything, it just populates those up. And so if you've got students working on it in class, you can see whether they're working, whether they're complete, and whether or not you send feedback to them. And you can attach by item recorded audio feedback or textual feedback. So it's kind of cool how they give those different modes. We all know that sometimes you just got to talk out something. Sometimes you want to type it out. It's kind of nice to have those options and for the students to have those options to respond too, right?
Right, for sure. Yeah, it gives them just a different voice where sometimes they struggle to articulate that through their responses, but their written response, but they could tell you about it. So I'm really psyched about it. I think it gives people kind of an all-encompassing tool that you don't have to go out and go, oh, I need an audio recorder that I can add on to this, or I need, something that I can use to insert a video into this. So I think it could be used for assessment, but it can also be used to just kind of introduce topics, to provide a lot of content in one place. But that audio record feature, I'm super psyched about that.
Absolutely.
It works with Google Classroom. It works with Edmodo. It also works on iPads, Chromebooks, tablets, computers, obviously. But that's really nice too, because sometimes you find ones that are just specialized in terms of where they actually work. And this will work on any of those. But one thing to note, their website does say if they're working on an iPad, the best bet is to use either Chrome or Safari. So
yeah, one teacher was working on an iPad and they were having trouble with the draw one. So it must be like a something with the functionality why they recommend those different browsers.
Right. Do you want to tell us about something else that we're digging?
Bonus, what we're digging. I just wanted to give everyone a kind of peel back the curtain a little bit. We use an app called Zencastr. It's a web app. And it's specifically for podcast interviews and podcasting in general. So right now, we're actually using Zencastr to record this part of our show. And what Zencastr is, and that's Zencast with the R tucked on the end. It's a way for people to get together and have their audio recorded as they're having a discussion. And then all of everyone's local audio is saved to the session. So instead of recording a Skype call or a Hangout call where we would need to record the our guests with a voice over IP, which would kind of sound like they were calling into a radio show. Like it would be, the quality would be downgraded a little bit. It records their audio locally and then saves it. And that results in a lot better quality of audio, so that we can produce a little bit higher quality of a podcast for you. So if you're into podcasting, if you have a podcast yourself, you want your kids to kind of play around with podcasting, maybe as a way to demonstrate their learning or of some sort, go ahead and check it out. I think I can speak for both of us in saying we highly recommend it. It's a pretty slick app for that.
And super easy to just kind of jump right into. There's not a lot of bells and whistles, so from the user side, it's really easy to use and to invite guests to as well. So on today's episode, we're so excited to talk to my friend Ben Pineda. So Ben agreed to sit around the campfire early morning, even on a snow day. He had a snow day, and he still took the time out to chat with us and connect with us. Ben is just full of energy. He's got so much passion that he brings to education, that he brings to teaching, to everything that he does. I mean, he's taught for almost 30 years. He could retire, but he's just, he can't retire because his students would truly miss out on an awesome storyteller and someone who is so good at connecting with students and getting them to love learning and social studies as much as he does. So we know that you're going to love hearing from him. Welcome, everybody. We are so excited to have Ben with us today. Ben Pineda. Ben, I'm saying that right, aren't I?
You're saying it perfect.
Perfectly. Awesome. So Ben is an 8th grade social studies teacher. He is from Hazlitt, and we first kind of got connected when we were working on the My Open Book project, which was something that we were both very, very passionate about because it provided free digital social studies textbooks written by Michigan social studies teachers to anyone. And then more recently, we got kind of reconnected at a professional development within his district, and we were chatting about podcasting, and Ben just has like this natural zest and energy, and he's such a great storyteller that I was talking to him about coming on as a guest, and he was like, yeah. And so what better way to really kick off our podcast than to have Ben with us? So thanks. Ben, yeah, absolutely. I'm
gonna need that energy this morning.
It's coming your way. I'm not far away from Lansing, so.
Well, that's good.
I'm
not
sending
3
it right now.
Deep, like, nice. Send it south.
Right.
So Ben, I'm going to give you a minute to just kind of introduce yourself. You had some awesome things when we asked you about what you were passionate about, so feel free to include those too, but tell us a little bit about Ben.
Okay. Let's see. I graduated from Michigan State in 1988. So this is my 29th year of teaching, my 26th year at the middle school. So it's been an awesome ride. I feel like the middle schoolers, whenever I say I teach at middle school, sometimes I get mixed reactions, a lot of times groans and, oh, like, I feel so sorry for you. But really, for me, it's a fountain of youth. I can retire in a year, but I feel like I got another 20 in me. So I'm looking forward to a lot more teaching. I'm social studies. I'm also certified in language arts, but thank goodness that they hone in my craft on social studies. I really love that. It is my passion. I teach U.S. history right now, which is, let's see, in the 8th grade year in the state of Michigan, the model takes us from Constitution through Reconstruction. So a very interesting, brutal, beautiful, and I think engaging topic, at least for me. I hated social studies when I was in school, and it wasn't until Michigan State that I found that social studies can be kind of cool, and I'm hoping I can kind of transform that, relay that out to my students. But yeah, it's been It's been awesome. I also work very closely with the teacher ed program at Michigan State University. We're involved in a pretty unique program where their senior placement is not on campus but is at our school. So instead of them being farmed out in pairs, all 17 of them are in our school twice a week, and all 17 get to observe a couple hours of my class. So there's a lot of, I don't know, I guess there's a lot of continuity. There's a lot of ability to debrief what we all saw afterwards. Pretty unique program. It's our 5th year going, and I don't think anyone else is doing it, which is kind of cool. It helps to have Michigan State so cutting edge in education. They asked, I said yes, and everyone else said yes, and we are rocking in our 5th year of that mentorship program. But as far as what am I passionate about, just teaching in general. If I won the lotto, I'd still teach. I would just have really, really cool weekends that no one would know about except for me and my family. But I think that what I love most is, I think, storytelling, incorporating that. It's pretty easy to get me on a bird walking tangent, but I think a lot of times that adds to the environment, creates a nice rapport. I don't see it as a waste of time at all. And if I have wasted time, I'll make it up the next day. That's how I see it. But that's basically it. I just have a lot of fun teaching, and the kids are awesome. I feel like I am very blessed in mid-Michigan to have a plethora of just quality schools around. I think Hazlitt is one of those. Jeff, I think Mason is one of those. I think you'd agree that we are very blessed with a lot of good districts in our area. So
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben.
yeah.
And Ben, so after we connected initially, I was at a coffee shop in Petoskey and ran into a teacher from Petoskey Public Schools and was telling her about my open book project and how we just had a really fun team because Jeff, maybe you would agree, like 8th grade social studies teachers, but social studies teachers in general are just kind of a fun group. And she was like, oh my gosh, I was part of, she went to Michigan State and she was part of the program that you were talking about. And she just said that it was amazing. So I think that's a really cool program too.
Did we talk about this already?
I think we did, but maybe we didn't.
Maybe I forgot. Do you remember who it was?
Yes, I do. Her name was Morgan.
Got
She
it.
teaches
Yes.
middle school language.
We did talk about this. Yeah, that's right. Good.
So Ben, kind of one of our quirky first questions, because our podcast is Campfire and it's about storytelling. So, how perfect that you are with us because that's something that you so enjoy and are so good at. But our first question is, did you ever go to summer camp as a kid? And if you did, what kind of summer camp was it?
It's funny that the summer camps I've done recently now are with our church. And so I'm like the adult. But I remember my first summer camps. I don't even know. I think they were like in Virginia or something. My mom is a pediatrician, still practicing, believe it or not. And she's also a allergist and asthma specialist. So she ran this asthma camp. And so my first experience of camp was an asthma camp somewhere in the Appalachian Mountains, I believe. And it was kind of interesting because here I was, a little kid put in these cabins were like railroad cars with people I didn't know. And I basically, my biggest memory is just waking up a lot at night, missing my mom, and the camp counselor like literally parading me around at like 3 a.m. on his shoulder, just trying to calm me down and to look for my mom and things like that. Cause she was on call a lot.
Okay.
And with asthma, it was, I remember the clinic was like filled with kids struggling 24/7. And so she was quite busy, but I remember that's my biggest memory, waking up and she wasn't there. And I was a little freaked out about that. And, but that's it. I wouldn't say it was traumatic. I wouldn't say it was a fun experience, but definitely memorable.
Yeah.
So how old were you?
I think I was like 4. I mean, I was young, like really young,
Yeah.
like can barely remember it, kind of young.
Wow. What kind of activities did they have at asthma camp?
Well, it's funny. They did a lot. I remember they tried to promote a lot of physical activity, which now as an adult, I can understand why. The idea of saying, hey, you can live a very, very normal life with your asthma, et cetera, et cetera. But I do remember a kid getting a fish hook through his finger on the dock. I remember that. That was, and it kind of taught me a lesson of like, hey, on the backcast, watch who's behind you. It was it was a graphic scene. I remember that, very R-rated, blood everywhere, so that's another experience I remember. But they had a lot of crafts and things like that, canoeing, fishing, obviously.
And so if this is the cradle from which you were forged, that's a pretty intense origin story, Ben.
It's probably why I never went to summer camp afterwards.
Well, and Ben, I feel like, Jeff doesn't know you quite as well, but I feel like you just love to be kind of outside and be dynamic. And we bonded over our similar volleyball kind of playing connections. So when you think about, so I'm thinking about that, right? And then I think about what it must be like to be in your classroom, which I honestly would love to be a fly on the wall in your classroom someday. So I might have to just pop in sometime when I'm down there.
Anytime.
But yeah, so like what's going on in your class that you're excited about, or just something in education in general that you're excited about?
Something I've introduced the last couple of years is this, how you walk into a teacher's room and they have a warm up. And so I started doing that. And I remember a kid a couple of years ago said, man, you ought to call this something different than just a warm up. And he's like, maybe like an appetizer. And I'm like, excellent idea. And so when you walk into my room, there's a different appetizer every single day. Like I think the appetizer the other day was something to the effect of, it was the appetizer for today, if we would have had school, which will be the appetizer for tomorrow, is double cheeseburger sliders. And I think so they come in and I always have a picture of it. Just to kind of get them ready for the day. And then I also have this, how teachers want to announce what their outcomes, their goals for the hour are. And we decided to call that dessert. And so today's dessert what is today's dessert? Oh, it is vanilla ice cream with caramel topping. And so I start the show by the kids just walk in, they take a look at the appetizer, hear all the things to look forward to today. And then when I get started, I show them the pictures, they ooh and ah. They tell me how hungry that's making them, and it always is a good, nice, casual, fun start, I think. But that's something I've just started trying to do, and just little quirky things like that. I'm a very loud teacher, as your podcast microphones can probably pick up right now. I'm pretty active. Teaching for me is a kind of a workout. I think I'm all over the room. I try to stay organized, though, and I surprise myself just how organized I am at times, considering the fact that it is just frantic, I think, in an organized sort of way. But I think if you were to walk into my classroom, and I think, Aaron, just meeting me, I think what you have seen is what you would get in my classroom. Just carbon copy. Awesome.
So first off, are you actually cooking up double cheese sliders for the start of your classes tomorrow? Because if so, I'll be there.
Yeah.
But if not, could you kind of describe how that connects to your starter activity?
Well, it is a point of contention because the kids really are suffering because they see this really awesome looking food. And sometimes it takes me like 15 minutes just to find the right pictures, that look the best. But no, I don't cook anything up, but it's just a way to, I don't know, get visual. I'm not even sure if it does anything educationally, to be honest with you, outside of build a more informal rapport. But I always have reminders. I always have the dessert are the outcomes for the day. And I just kind of list in order all the things that are going to happen in the period. And so it's just kind of a good visual. And sometimes I'll have like some sort of work prompt. Like, for example, the question I had the other day was, what part of the upcoming quiz are you most concerned about? Just to give them something to think about. Another starter I've had are things like, was Jefferson a good president? Why or why not?
Gotcha. I really appreciate the connection to a menu and like the kind of the sequential nature of eating, right? From appetizer to main course to dessert, and then kind of the parallels that you can draw from a activation, main activity, main learning for the day, and then into your exit ticket, your formative assessment, whatever it is, before they leave out the door. Like that's the thought that was in my mind, and especially if you're able to make connections between the food items and the the actual activities and stuff like that. Like I think that could be really, really fun. So that's just where my mind went with that.
Well, you know what? I don't do it that way. I just do an appetizer and dessert. But Jeff, that's a great idea. I should have an appetizer. Here's what's going to happen. Here's the main course, like the guts of the class, and then end with here's what I hope you got out of it with the dessert. So thank you. It just means I have one more food item I got to think of on a daily basis now.
You're going to have really hungry students.
The whole menu concept for your class too, Ben, how cool it would be to have like takeout options.
Ooh.
Right? So when you set your class up, if there are choices in the way that they can demonstrate things, then those are either their menu choices, or I know you're not a big homework guy, but if there were homework that they could have takeout options, which one do you want to choose to do?
Right. That's a great idea, Aaron.
Turning this morning.
All right. So that adds like an extra hour of prep to my day. Now I got to come up with a main dish and takeout menu items. But that's awesome. I love that. And you know how my whole venture of trying to make this the very first year I eradicate homework in my class, I realized that's tough to do. So I've gone back to the idea of, hey, we're gonna hit as much as I can with you here in class together. But going home and reviewing what we read, looking at your notes from our discussion, taking a look at the notes, that's still a really healthy activity. And I've gone back to the idea that, so maybe I'm not going to be successful in eradicating homework completely, but I hope I can put a big dent in it and make it much less of an issue or an item that one does after school. So I'm rethinking that. I really am. But I love the takeout thing.
Yeah, well, and when I think about what you just described as homework, I think that's different from what a lot of people assign as homework, right?
No, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Like
I don't assign.
You're not asking them to do new learning,
right?
Or learning that's not meaningful,
right?
Right.
Right.
All right. I want to pick your brain about something that you mentioned when we were kind of like doing a little prep for today's podcast. And that was having a deck or an outside area for your classroom. I want to know more.
So I missed the boat on a MEMIC grant, MEMIC Insurance Company. But I just got an email. It's funny you mentioned this. I just got an email a few days ago about a new, and I can't remember what corporation is offering
Don't tell
grants.
people then. Everybody else will do it too.
Okay.
Just kidding.
All right. I know, right? So I want to build a deck. My classroom's kind of unique. It's a big classroom. It used to be a former woods and metal shop classroom. I've got some interesting, huge double doors in the back of my classroom. So I have two entrances, and those double doors lead out to the wooded area. I think I have the most beautiful view in the entire district as far as classrooms. It opens out to a beautiful wooded area with trails, and like when the snow is falling, it's tough to beat. And I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could have a classroom out there where we could go out from time to time when the weather's nice and when the weather's not so nice. Like when we're talking about Valley Forge and the American Revolution, let's go out there when it's like 28 degrees. And no, you can't put your coat on. We won't be out here that long, but just to give them a feel for the environment, I think. I also thought it'd be a really cool area, opportunity to do some reflecting kind of out in nature and not necessarily within the confines of a classroom at a desk. So I've had one of our custodial staff take a look at stuff. We drew out some plans. There's a lot that goes into it. I want to make it accessible to other classrooms as well. So there'd be two entrances to the deck, not just for my classroom. So I'm going to pitch it when I write this grant in that it's going to be accessible to the whole school, that it will be almost like a place-based learning opportunity that is not anywhere but in our school grounds. So I don't know if that really counts as place-based, but I don't know. As a kid, I would have loved to have gone outdoors and just hung out and had a quick discussion outdoors. I think that'd be so cool, especially with the backdrop of the woods that we have right there.
That's awesome. I know. So my dad taught 8th grade social studies for 30 years. It's like a theme we have going on here. But he always said that when his students could feel history, that's really when they learned and understood it. So I think what you were talking about there, in terms of the Valley Forge, or I was even thinking Trail of Tears, kind of having those experiences brings them to a greater level of understanding, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there's a story I tell every year. I have to wait till it's bitterly, bitterly cold, below zero kind of cold. And I would love to take them out there just for 30 seconds, and then to bring them indoors and tell them about the story about this guy that I met on my very first day ever. School was canceled because of cold. I celebrated with, treating myself and the family to some pizza, and this homeless man wheels himself up to me in this, hardened slush, and is asking for help, wants food. I give him my crazy bread. He wheels off, and, I was struck by this. Wait a minute, this guy, this tattered person of a man, it's 20 degrees below zero, is going off into the darkness. And so I asked him where he was going, and he said he had a place staked out under the Shiawassee Bridge in Lansing. And I'm like, you are staying outdoors tonight? And he said, yes. And I asked him about the shelters, and he said they fill up every night. And it struck me because I was like, wow, you don't see that many homeless in Lansing because we have a good infrastructure of serving that need to get people inside. But just the idea of this, and he wasn't wearing any Gore-Tex or North Face products. He was bundled up in tattered wear, has staked out a place under a bridge when it's going to be 30 below zero wind chill tonight. It just struck me as sad, and in some way very inspirational to how strong the human spirit is. But I also like to tell that story just to let my kids know that, hey, we got it pretty good, and that there are individuals out there that do not, and that we are a community that can do more for our own community. But I think having a deck when it's 10 below zero and be able to take them out there for 15 seconds would be very poignant.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's it exactly. Feeling the history or the story.
Yes, for sure. So I'm thinking about your hidden teacher talent, and I know you have many. But before we got started today, I asked you to think about maybe, just maybe, because we might, and Jeff can vouch for me here, we might have mentioned this in our intro cast that our first guest does rap reviews for his students.
I'm interested in how that came about, then. Was there a what came first, the cart or the horse, with the need to do the rap reviews, or the talent to be able to do a rap review?
I don't know if there's any talent in it. I think it's just I think it was a January night. I was getting ready for a few days of reviewing the Jackson era with our Mr. $20 bill man, and I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if I wrote a rap to review all the main or some of the big ideas that we've talked about over the last several days in this chapter. And I just started going with it. I performed it. It was a straight rap. The kids loved it. And they said, you got to do this for every chapter, which I was like, are you kidding me? And they were just eating it up. And so I decided I would do that. And so since then I've been writing rap/songs. Most of them are a combination of rap and popular music. I revise them from year to year. Some years I don't revise just because it's so good to what I like, or I just feel like what I did I really like and the kids will enjoy. But it just kind of started out with that, and then my 8th graders were like, "Man, Mr. Panetta, you need to get a rapper name." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right." So I thought about it. I'm like, I'll be P Cause, I'm rapping for a cause. P for Panetta, rapping for a cause. And my oldest son Matt, who's now 22, but when he was in high school, he said, "Man, that's lame, Dad. Because he said, why don't you be like because, what up, cuz?" And I'm like, that's even better. So my rapper name is Because. So, which is interesting because I think the students know me very well as Mr. Panetta and also as Because. But But this Jackson one, if you want to hear this one, this is a straight rap. This is the only one that I've done that has never been revised, just because A, it was the first one, and B, I think it's a good one. I think it's my favorite one. But it starts out with Jackson. You know he was poor right from the beginning. In 1824, he said, Clay, now you're cheating. In 1828, dissing Adams won the day. Indians knew then that everyone should pray, because Jackson, he backed the land-greedy people, an idol for the guy who hailed him like a steeple. AJ opened up Gov for the likes of you and I. Suddenly the little guy felt like he could fly. I'm killing the bank, he said, for his next task. What we didn't know was this would simply mask a panic in econ. It really was a brewing. Soon you and I, the dirt we'd be chewing. So if you ever wonder whether Jackson Stan should sing, you need to decide if he was president or king. And that was the first one.
Wow. Well, you couldn't have like picked a more like gangster president than Jackson.
Yeah, how fitting,
like,
right?
His upbringing with everyone dying around him, and like love completely, hate completely.
Right. Yeah, it was actually kind of fitting that it was Jackson that kind of started everything off. But yeah, most of them are a combination of song and stuff. The last one I wrote had a little bit of Macklemore, little Judy Garland, little Beauty and the Beast, little Anna Kendrick Cups, along mixed in with some rap. So
I'm just fascinated at how you just put all four of those things together.
Well, part of it is I just got to keep my pulse on like top 40 music, which I hate to say I actually listen a lot of. Just I don't know if it's just because the 8th grader in me is still there, but I try to look at some songs that are popular nowadays that the kids would like to sing, and I always have it so the kids are part of it, so they have their own lines that they do and things like that, and they get into it. It's pretty loud. It's almost like a choir concert in my class, at least once a chapter. So
that's awesome. I love it.
That's cool.
That's fun.
Love it. All right, Jeff. Any last questions? Things you still have to know?
No, I'm kind of speechless after that.
I know. How do we follow up to that, right? So, Ben, we want you to enjoy your snow day.
I will. Thank you very much for having me. I am honored to have been part of your Campfire podcast. I hope this is not my last time. And,
Well, I think Jeff and I already, I'm speaking for both of us here, Jeff, but I would really like to hear the Beauty and the Beast plus Judy Garland. My mind is just, it's not had enough caffeine, even though I've had like 3 cups of coffee, to figure out how all of those work together. So I think we need to get.
Do you ever record these, or have students record versions of them?
Actually, the kids keep harping on me and saying I need to create a YouTube channel and just record these. And actually, Aaron, you've mentioned that too. So
yes, I think I bugged you about that at my open books when you were telling us about it.
Yeah.
Because I think it would be so cool for other students to be able to get a taste of your awesome rap writing, singing, performing skills, but also just, as a teacher, it's always fun to share things like that aren't you, right?
Right. Yeah, so, absolutely.
That'd be awesome. All right, man. Well, good luck shoveling.
Yes.
Enjoy
It'll
the
be
day
my workout.
with your kiddos.
It'll be my workout for the day, and I know you can appreciate that, Aaron.
I can.
Well, it was really good to meet you, Ben.
It's good meeting you, Jeff.
All right,
Thanks again.
Enjoy. Thank you, Ben.
Hey, happy
Have a good
holidays
day,
to you guys. Yeah, you too.
Thanks, you too.
You as well.
See ya.
Bye.
Hello there. Today, we want to talk to you about asking questions, because asking questions is a good way to find out about things like go gaze, observe.
So in our intro cast, we asked you to ask us questions using the hashtag CampfireQ, and people must have been really busy over the weekend with all the snow. That must have been it, right?
Yeah, because there's such a big buzz. Everyone knows about this podcast at this point in time. And it must have been that they were busy, so they couldn't ask the questions.
So. I'm going to go with that. So we didn't have any questions. And that makes us really sad. And we would probably even send you like a sweet piece of swag if you asked us a question and it got on the podcast. Can I say that?
We'll
that
definitely do that.
Yeah, definitely. So
Aaron will buy you something from a tourist trap antique store in.
I will buy you a Petoskey stone.
In Petoskey.
It's our state rock. That would be special. So yeah. Anyway, we just opted to ask our own question. And I think a question that we get a lot after presenting at a lot of conferences and within districts, blended learning is something that people just don't have a real clear understanding of. So, Jeff, tell us, what is blended learning in 1 minute or less? No, just kidding. I won't give you the 1 minute timeline.
I think the one caveat of having this conversation is like, take a deep breath. All the good things that you do as a teacher do not get thrown out the window. It's not a we are totally used to having new terms come into our lives as teachers and have it be presented as the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? Mm-hmm. Blended learning isn't a thing in itself. It's a container that can be occupied by the thing that you put into it. When we were talking before we started recording, Aaron, you were saying stress that it's a framework, right?
Yeah.
And that's really important going into it. Blended learning has to be inhabited by good teaching and learning. Whatever you're doing at the district level, at the school level, that's, completely unique to you is unique for a reason. It's targeted towards you and your students. So that's always important to keep in mind. And actually, really put simply, we're looking at blended learning as a learning experience for students that integrates in-person learning with technology. So we've got a face-to-face component and an online component. And when those things come together, they enable great things like the ability to capture more data, get it in real time, and know how your students are doing. And what that enables in turn is a greater ability to personalize learning for students, because you know how your students are learning, you know how your students are thinking more. And then when we're able to identify and support students through these personalized tactics, then we have a greater ability to teach to mastery. Mm-hmm. Not think in terms of alphabet soup anymore, but to think about like, what do we got to do to get students to all A level, right? So I think that with blended learning, we're really talking about using technology strategically to enable us that opportunity. And I use enable as a term specifically because technology doesn't guarantee all those things, right? Right. There's still the most important variable in any learning situation, and that applies to a blended learning situation as well, is that teacher. Teacher makes the world go round. So being able to strategically leverage technology to accomplish those things is really what blended learning is all about.
Sometimes I forget that you can't see me nod in my head as you're talking, but I was nodding my head a lot. Yes, it's that intentionality of technology, right? And the intentionality of what gets delivered face to face. It's not, oh, hey, there's this cool new tool that I just heard about, so let's do it. But figuring out first what you want your students to be able to do, and then does it fit or does it not fit?
Absolutely. I think the coolest thing about it is that a lot of different kind of teaching styles can occupy it, right? Like, yeah,
and it looks different in every classroom, right? We were just at the elementary and middle school principals conference, and we were sharing about what blended learning looks like in a second grade classroom and a third grade classroom, but that's going to look potentially very different than what it looks like in a high school classroom. And that's totally okay. It's still blended learning, right?
Not only is it okay, it has to, right?
Yeah.
It has to be different.
Yes. So it's not this one size fits all, but we really love that it can play into the strengths of you as a teacher and what you do well, and maybe areas where you struggle are those areas where you can seek out technology to be of some assistance.
Yep.
So, in the future, now that you know about hashtag Campfire Q, you can ask us a question. Maybe there's a certain topic that you want to hear us chat about, or just a question about blended learning in general. You can use Twitter, you can use Facebook, you can use Instagram to let us know what your questions are, but just make sure that you put the hashtag Campfire Q in your post so that we see it.
You know what we should do even, and I don't know if you're comfortable with it. Can we put out like our Snap handles, our Snap names, and people can just.
I have to look mine up.
Maybe we'll just we'll put the Snap codes out there.
How about in the show notes?
Yeah,
perhaps?
that's what I'm saying. In the show notes. That'd be cool.
Love it. Yes. Yeah. So we hope that you're feeling energized from Ben's campfire chat. Sorry that we did not bring the marshmallows, but man, that Chubby Bunny challenge is going to happen one of these times. We'll have to get it set up in advance.
I'm feeling so congested. I might as well have done Chubby Bunny. I that would have been a real hazard if I did. I was doing some heavy mouth breathing.
It's a bad idea, Jeff.
Yeah.
We hope that you have some new ideas, and maybe that you're even a little bit more curious about blended learning altogether. And we just referenced the show notes in terms of our Snapchat handles. But check out the show notes. We put a lot of information in there. We're going to put some links to Wizer in there with some more ideas for classroom applications. But we'll put other things that we've chatted about, sometimes some fun link outs. The last one, we included a link for how your astrological, is that the right term? How your astrological sign changed, and you are trying to come to terms with that. I hope you're good on that now.
Yeah, I'm good. I mean,
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have to be good, right?
Right.
I thought
I was a Taurus for 32 years, so
yeah,
it got me too. Yeah.
Well, I'm Aquarius now, so I have a song. So like I kind of traded up.
That song?
Yeah.
No?
Age of Aquarius. And beautiful singing, right?
From us both.
But yeah.
All right, if people want to listen to more, if we haven't driven you crazy yet, how can they do that?
Yeah, if you're listening, keep listening and keep coming back. It's really good. If you feel like you want a different like delivery mechanism for that, if you want to be super cool and do iTunes and be like no one else in the world, because no one subscribes to podcasts on iTunes, do iTunes. Google Play Music too. I don't think Google Play Music is popular. It's just what I use. So that's the only reason why it gets mentioned here.
The ultimate Google guy.
Yeah.
Like across the board Google guy.
There's a lot of people that are like ultimate Google people though.
Okay. All
right. I dig I have a MacBook Pro. It's probably my favorite piece of technology that I own, that I've had for 7 years. So I like to be an Apple person too. I just happen to dig Google. You like Google too. Sure. You just don't have a ton of other devices, right?
I don't. That's true.
But that's the magic of all this stuff. Pick what you want. It's like blended learning.
Oh my gosh.
Pick what you want.
We're coming full circle today.
Yep. I'm running out of things to talk about.
Agreed. So maybe we should just peace out and catch them next time.
All right. I love you all. Have a good holiday if we don't talk to you.
Yeah. Happy holidays.
Yeah. See ya.